We lack those kinds of funds, just sitting available. Emily, you must be practical regarding this matter. My dad was positioned at the entrance to my living space. His arms folded, his expression severe. Next to him, my mom was agreeing with head movements. Her lips formed into a narrow, disapproving expression. I remained there, my boy of 7 years, Ethan, sleeping in the adjoining bedroom. His respiration was strained, despite the oxygen equipment operating. The hospital invoices were distributed across my dining table like condemning proof of my shortcomings. $85,000. That represented the sum the medical expert mentioned for the trial procedure that might preserve Ethan's existence. His uncommon cardiac ailment was no longer reacting to traditional medical approaches, and his remaining time was limited. I am called Emily, and my age is 31 years. I reside in Columbus, Ohio, employed as a junior high science instructor while caring for Ethan by myself. His dad departed when Ethan received his diagnosis at 3 years old, unable to manage having an ill child. That occurred 4 years prior, and I had been waging this struggle independently from that point forward. My folks resided 20 minutes distant in their pleasant residential dwelling, the identical dwelling where my younger sibling Claire continued to have her adolescent bedroom maintained like a memorial. Practical, I said again, my voice breaking. My boy could perish without this medical intervention. The physician stated he possesses perhaps 6 months. If we fail to take action immediately, my mom advanced closer, her hand contacting my dad's limb, in that manner she employed, when she desired to moderate his communication, but would not oppose him. Dear, we comprehend this is challenging, but we have previously assisted you substantially across the years. We financed 3 of his surgical procedures. We cannot simply drain our pension funds. I am not requesting you to drain them. I am requesting a financial advance. I will repay you each dollar. I will obtain a second employment. I will perform whatever is necessary. My dad moved his head negatively. Emily, you are scarcely maintaining your survival as things stand. How would you repay us? Be reasonable. There exist installment arrangements, healthcare funding alternatives. You ought to investigate those. I had investigated them. I had devoted weeks examining each conceivable avenue. The installment arrangements would require excessive time. Ethan lacked years to delay. The healthcare funding corporations desired percentage rates that would immerse me for multiple decades, and the majority would not accept me, regardless, because I was currently submerged in healthcare obligation. I have attempted everything alternative. I stated softly. You represent my final possibility. My mom's face softened somewhat, and briefly, I believed she could persuade my dad. However, then he communicated again, his voice resolute. We are unable to accomplish it, Emily. I apologize, but we must consider our personal future. Additionally, we are not becoming any younger. They departed soon afterward, and I remained at the window, observing their vehicle depart. The burden of their denial descended over me like a suffocating covering. I entered Ethan's bedroom and positioned myself adjacent to his sleeping area, attending to the consistent sound of the oxygen equipment. His little torso elevated and descended irregularly. He appeared so tranquil in slumber, unaware that his personal grandparents had recently determined his destiny. I placed telephone communications the following day. I contacted every family member I could consider, remote relatives, my mom's siblings, anyone who could assist. The majority provided sympathy and limited quantities that would not create an impact. My relative Teresa transmitted $500 with a message stating she desired it could be additional. I valued every dollar, but I was attempting to populate an ocean with a small spoon. 2 weeks subsequently, I arrived home from a notably difficult day at the educational facility to discover Ethan having difficulty respiring. His mouth area had a blue coloration that transmitted alarm shooting through me. I contacted the emergency vehicle and they transported him to the medical center. The physician stabilized him, but the heart specialist removed me aside with a serious face. His condition is declining more rapidly than we predicted, Dr. Morrison stated. Without that procedure, we reviewed, I would estimate he possesses 3 months at maximum, possibly fewer. I moved my head numbly, incapable to communicate beyond the obstruction in my throat. 3 months? My infant had 3 months, unless I could locate $85,000. I initiated a public funding effort that evening, investing my emotions into the explanation, distributing photographs of Ethan's cheerful expression from prior to he became so ill. Acquaintances distributed it. Instructors from my educational facility donated. Even some of my pupils' parents participated. However, after 2 weeks, I had only accumulated $12,000. It was not even near to sufficient. Then arrived the telephone communication from Claire. My sibling's voice was excited with enthusiasm. Emily, I possess the most remarkable information. Jeffrey made a proposal. We are becoming married. I attempted to generate excitement despite the weightiness in my torso. That is marvelous, Claire. Congratulations. I understand. Correct. And Mom and Dad are being so incredibly giving. They are financing the entire wedding ceremony. Can you accept it? They stated we can possess whatever we desire. No financial plan restrictions. Jeffrey and I are considering a remote wedding ceremony. Perhaps Italy or the southern France region. Oh, Emily, it is going to be absolutely flawless. My hand compressed around the telephone. No financial plan restrictions. None. Dad stated this is his young daughter's exceptional day, and nothing is excessively favorable. We are gathering with wedding ceremony organizers following week. The wedding ceremony will not occur for another year, but we desire to commence organizing currently to guarantee we obtain precisely what we desire. I remain there in my limited living space. Hospital invoices accumulated on each surface. My boy struggling for each respiration in the following bedroom, and attended to my sibling express excitement regarding her unlimited wedding ceremony financial plan. Something frigid and firm developed in my torso, a beginning of comprehension that would establish itself and develop in the months to arrive. The months that preceded were a confusion of medical center visits and increasing hopelessness. I reached the limit on each credit document I possessed, obtained personal advances at exploitative percentage rates, and disposed of everything of worth I owned. My grandmother's jewelry piece, the single thing of my personal mother's I had been provided, went to a lending shop for $800. My vehicle became reduced to a 15-year-old vehicle that scarcely operated. I relocated from my single-bedroom living space to a studio to preserve on rental payment. Through it entirely, Claire's wedding ceremony arrangements advanced like an unstoppable power of existence. Each family meal, each telephone communication, each interaction somehow revolved back to the wedding ceremony. My folks were absorbed with it, participating in samplings at expensive dining establishments, examining locations in Tuscany through video communication, reviewing flower configurations that cost more than my monthly income. I attempted to be pleased for Claire. I genuinely did. She was my younger sibling, and there had been a period when we were connected. However, that connection had diminished across the years, as it became obvious that our folks perceived us quite differently. Claire was the favored child, the one who accomplished everything correctly. She completed college with distinctions, obtained a respected employment at a promotional company, dated the appropriate category of males from favorable families. I was the one who became pregnant at 23 by a male who proved to be worthless, who selected instructing instead of a more profitable occupation, who could not even maintain her boy healthy. One evening in July, my mom contacted me. "Emily dear, we must discuss regarding the wedding ceremony." "What regarding it?" I was fatigued, having recently completed a summer educational session and devoted 3 hours at the medical center with Ethan. "Well, Claire desires you to be a wedding assistant, naturally, but the garments are going to be approximately $300, and we require you to request yours promptly." $300. I performed the calculation in my mind. That was nearly sufficient for 2 weeks of Ethan's prescriptions. "I do not know if I can manage that presently." There was a silence. "Emily, this is your sibling's wedding ceremony. I comprehend, but things are genuinely restricted. Ethan's healthcare costs. You are constantly discussing Ethan's healthcare costs." My mum interrupted, her voice assuming in boundary. "I comprehend he is ill, but existence progresses for the remainder of us. This is Claire's exceptional day." I shut my eyes. Can I consider it? The time limit for requesting is following week. Claire has her emotions established on having you in the wedding ceremony group. After we disconnected, I positioned myself in the darkness of my studio living space and expressed tears. How had it arrived to this? How had my family become so unable to see what was occurring? My boy was perishing, and they were concerned regarding wedding assistant garments and seating diagrams. Ethan's condition persisted to decline. The trial procedure was no longer an alternative. We had overlooked the opportunity. The physicians transferred to comfort attention, concentrating on maintaining him comfortable. Each day, I observed my boy diminish slightly more, his cheerful character reducing along with his physical power. He ceased requesting when he could return to educational facility. He ceased discussing desiring to be a researcher when he matured. He understood, in the manner children somehow understand, that he was depleting of time. I obtained an absence from instructing to be with him. My administrator was comprehending, but it was compensation, absent absence, which signified my previously uncertain financial circumstance became disastrous. I submitted for each assistance system, each support, each charitable organization I could locate. The majority had delay lists, months extended, or standards I did not satisfy. In September, 5 months after my folks declined to assist, Claire's pre-marriage celebration occurred. My mum contacted to communicate all regarding it. They had leased a residence in Napa Valley for the weekend period. 12 of Claire's nearest acquaintances, all costs financed by our folks, wine samplings, health treatments, a personal cooking professional. It was absolutely enchanting. My mom expressed enthusiasm. Claire was so pleased. You ought to have perceived her face. How much did it require? I requested, incapable to halt myself. Oh, I do not know precisely. Your dad managed all that. Perhaps $10,000. However, it was deserving each dollar to perceive Claire so happy. $10,000. More than a tenth of what could have preserved Ethan, devoted on a single weekend period. I sensed something inside me fracture, a basis of family dedication that I had been grasping to despite everything. That sounds marvelous, I stated without emotion. You know, Emily, I desire you would attempt to be more enthusiastic regarding this wedding ceremony. Claire senses, like you are not genuinely supporting her. I expressed laughter, a severe sound that surprised even me. Claire senses I am not supporting her. She does. She has observed you have been remote, and you continue to have not verified whether you will be a wedding assistant. I cannot manage the garment, Mom. I communicated you that. Well, Perhaps if you organized your finances superior, you would not constantly be in this circumstance. The words remained in the atmosphere, like toxin. Organized my finances superior, as if I had been expending carelessly, instead of struggling to maintain my child existing. As if the overwhelming burden of healthcare obligation was some category of personal deficiency rather than the outcome of a damaged healthcare structure and a family that selected elaborate celebrations over their grandson's existence. I must proceed, I stated. Ethan requires me. Naturally he does, my mom responded, and I perceived the unspoken judgment in her manner. You know, Emily, perhaps if you were not so concentrated on Ethan's difficulties constantly, you would be capable to appreciate existence more. Claire organizes to equilibrium everything so well. I disconnected without stating farewell. October transported a frigid period that appeared to establish into my physical structure. Ethan was in and out of the medical center, his little physical structure struggling a struggle it could not succeed. The physician communicated in quiet manners, regarding weeks, not months. I devoted each moment I could adjacent to his sleeping area, presenting him his preferred literature, communicating him narratives regarding what paradise could be like, grasping his hand through the discomfort. My folks visited occasionally, typically on their route to or from some wedding ceremony connected arrangement. They would remain for 20 minutes, contact Ethan's hand uncomfortably, and depart with bases of comfort. It was challenging to observe their uneasiness around their perishing grandson, challenging to perceive how enthusiastic they were to withdraw back to the more pleased existence of wedding ceremony arrangements. Claire arrived once. She remained in the entrance of Ethan's medical center bedroom, flawlessly attired in creator garments that likely cost more than my rental payment, and scarcely created it 5 minutes prior to asserting she had to depart for a garment adjustment. He is so slim, she communicated quietly to me in the corridor, as if this was information, as if I had not observed my boy diminish away day by day. Yes, I stated simply. It must be so challenging for you. She contacted my limb in emotion that could have been intended as comfort, but sensed artificial. However, you are so powerful, Emily. You constantly have been powerful. I had perceived that word so numerous times in the previous year, typically from individuals who were comforted they did not have to be. Powerful sufficient to manage this independently. Powerful sufficient not to require assistance. Powerful sufficient to observe your child perish, while your family devoted a fortune on a celebration. The wedding ceremony is in 3 weeks, Claire persisted. I genuinely hope you will reconsider being a wedding assistant. It would signify so much to me, and it could be favorable for you. You know, an opportunity to commemorate something pleased. To possess a pause from all this. A pause. As if I could obtain a holiday from my boy's passing. As if I could position on an expression and an overpriced garment and simulate everything was acceptable while Ethan struggled for each respiration. I will consider it. I deceived because it was simpler than clarifying how her words created me sense. The wedding ceremony announcements had reached at my living space 2 months earlier. Substantial paper material with golden decoration. The announcement collection independently likely cost $50 per visitor. I performed the calculation automatically currently, transforming everything into healthcare procedures we could not manage. The announcements could have been a month of physical rehabilitation. The location advance could have been a year of prescriptions. I discovered subsequently that the concluding expense of Claire's wedding ceremony was $230,000. $230,000. The figure repeated in my mind like a vocalization. They had devoted nearly 3 times what could have preserved Ethan's existence on a single day of commemoration. The location independently cost $80,000, approximately what I had requested for. The flowers were $15,000. The nourishment was $40,000. The garment was $12,000. I discovered these figures progressively through overheard discussions and my mom's informal mentions. She possessed no concept what each figure performed to me, how each dollar quantity sensed like a blade injury. Or perhaps she did know, and simply did not care. 2 weeks prior to the wedding ceremony, Ethan had a notably difficult day. His cardiac organ was failing, the monitoring equipment vocalizing their alerts, medical staff rushing in. I remained adjacent to his sleeping area, grasping his little hand, and observed the healthcare group struggle to stabilize him. They succeeded, but Dr. Morrison removed me aside afterward. Emily, he does not possess much time remaining. Days, perhaps a week. I believe you ought to consider contacting family. Anyone who could desire to state farewell. I contacted my folks. My dad responded, sounding unfocused. Emily, we are correct in the middle of the practice meal arrangements. Can this delay? Ethan is perishing, I stated, my voice empty. The physician states days at maximum. There was a silence then. Oh, Emily, I am so apologetic. Do you require us to arrive? Do I require you to arrive? My boy, their grandson, was perishing, and he was requesting if I required them to arrive. Yes, I stated. I believe Ethan would desire to perceive you. Naturally, we will attempt to visit tomorrow. We possess the concluding location examination in the afternoon period, but perhaps in the morning period. They arrived the following day, reaching at 10 in the morning with coffee shop containers in their hands. They remained for 15 minutes. Ethan was scarcely aware. His respiration strained, even with the oxygen rotated to greatest. My mum expressed tears slightly, contacting at her eyes with a tissue that likely cost more than Ethan's morning meal. My dad remained rigidly by the entrance, examining his timepiece twice. We must proceed, my dad finally stated. The flower specialist is anticipating us at 11. The flower specialist, I said again numbly, for the table decorations. It is significant we obtain this correct. There is no time for errors, this near to the wedding ceremony. He appeared unaware to the contradiction of his words. Remaining in a bedroom, where the ultimate error, selecting flowers over family, was approximately to assert its concluding victim. They departed with commitments to arrive back promptly. Commitments I understood they would not maintain. Claire never arrived to state farewell to her nephew. She was excessively occupied with final moment wedding ceremony crises, like the reality that the musical group she had employed had a string player who had become ill and been substituted. This was apparently a crisis deserving multiple frantic telephone communications. Ethan perished on a Tuesday morning period. 3 days prior to Claire's wedding ceremony, he departed quietly in his slumber, his little hand in mine. The medical staff member who declared him deceased expressed tears more than my folks would when I contacted to communicate them. My mom's initial words after I communicated her, Ethan was departed. Oh no. Oh Emily, no. What dreadful timing. Dreadful timing. Because the burial would obstruct with the wedding ceremony arrangements. That was the moment something fundamental transferred inside me. The sorrow was overwhelming. However, beneath it, I sensed something alternative developing. A frigid, patient comprehension. They had created their selection. Currently, I would create mine. The burial was arranged for Friday, 2 days prior to Claire's Sunday wedding ceremony. I did not request my folks to modify the wedding ceremony date. I did not request Claire to delay. I understood what the response would be, and I did not possess the power to perceive them clarify why their celebration was more significant than my boy's interment. What I did not anticipate was for them to request me to modify the burial. My mom contacted Wednesday evening period. Emily dear, we must discuss regarding the burial configurations. I was positioned in Ethan's bedroom, enclosed by his possessions, his preferred dinosaur display, his assembly of stones he had located at the recreation area, the research collection I had purchased him final Christmas that he had been excessively ill to utilize. What regarding them? Well, Friday is genuinely challenging for us. We possess the wedding ceremony practice, that afternoon period, and the practice meal in the evening period. It is all arranged, advances financed. Could you conceivably relocate the burial to Thursday? Or perhaps following week? I stared at the partition, incapable to process what I was perceiving. You desire me to modify my boy's burial because it conflicts with wedding ceremony practice. It is not simply practice, Emily. It is the entire arrangement. We possess distant town visitors reaching. Jeffrey's family traveling in from Atlanta. Your dad is providing a communication at the meal. We cannot overlook it. Ethan is your grandson, and we will be there to respect him. Naturally, we will, but Thursday would operate so much superior for everyone. The burial facility ought to be capable to accommodate the modification. Everyone. My voice emerged without emotion, emotionless. I was beyond anger, beyond injury. I had entered some new territory where sensing anything appeared impossible. Everyone would be more convenient if we interred my 8-year-old boy a day early, so you do not overlook beverage hour. Do not be theatrical, Emily. You are creating this sound worse than it is. We are attempting to support you and Claire both. Why cannot you be more adaptable? You know how significant this wedding ceremony is to your sibling. I disconnected. I did not trust myself to state anything alternative. The burial remained arranged for Friday. I configured it myself. Financed for it with finances I borrowed from my administrator, who had been more supportive in the previous year than my personal folks. It was a limited ceremony, simply 20 individuals. My relative Teresa arrived, some instructors from educational facility, a few parents of Ethan's previous classmates. My folks reached 45 minutes delayed, attired in garments obviously selected for the wedding ceremony celebrations to proceed. They remained for the ceremony, but departed immediately after, avoiding the limited reception I had organized at my living space. We genuinely must proceed, my mom stated, touching my face with mouth areas that scarcely created contact. Claire is possessing a crisis regarding the seating configurations, but it was a beautiful ceremony, Emily. Quite refined. Refined. My boy's burial was refined. I observed them depart, observed them operate away to their significant arrangements and critical crises, and I sensed something inside me rotate to mineral. The sorrow was still there, overwhelming and absolute, but it was contained currently, secured behind a partition of frozen frigid clarity. Saturday, I devoted independently in my living space, enclosed by sympathy documents and hospital invoices. The public funding effort that had accumulated $12,000 had been terminated. The finances utilized up months prior on procedures that only delayed the unavoidable. I was obligated $73,000 in healthcare obligation, had reached the limit on credit documents, totaling another $25,000, and my rental payment was 2 months overdue. Ethan's passing had not concluded my financial catastrophe. It had simply created it meaningless. My telephone illuminated with communications from remote relatives and acquaintances, requesting if I was acceptable, if I required anything. I did not react. What I required was impossible. I required my boy back. I required my folks to have been different individuals. I required to awaken and discover the previous year had been a catastrophe. Sunday morning period. Claire's wedding ceremony day. I awoke at sunrise. I had not organized to consider it, had not desired to recognize it was occurring. However, my telephone illuminated with a communication from my mom. Desire you were here to distribute this exceptional day. Claire appears absolutely magnificent. I stared at that communication for an extended time. Desire you were here, as if I had simply selected not to participate, as if I was overlooking it because of an arrangement conflict, rather than because I had interred my boy 2 days earlier. I became attired and proceeded for a movement. Columbus was beautiful in late October, leaves rotating golden and crimson. Ethan had valued autumn. We had organized to proceed to the large vegetable area this year. Simply one more thing that would never occur. My telephone persisted, illuminating throughout the day. Photographs from the wedding ceremony. My mom had added me to some category of assembly communication with extended family. I observed the representations, load one by one. The location in Tuscany, photographed at golden hour period. Claire in her creator garment. A garment that costs more than the majority of individuals' vehicles. The flower configurations, elaborate and excessive. The 5-layer dessert. The beverage structure. The musical group performing on a terrace overlooking Vineyard Hills. $230,000 of commemoration, while my boy's physical structure lay in a cemetery where I could not even manage a proper memorial stone yet. I moved through the photographs with an unusual sense of separation. Everyone appeared so pleased. My dad in his formal attire, radiating with satisfaction. My mom, elegant in her mom of the bride garment that likely cost $3,000. Claire and her new spouse, faces illuminating with happiness and possibility. Extended family members I had contacted, requesting for assistance, currently attired in their finest, commemorating with beverage that cost more per container than they donated to Ethan's procedure fund. One photograph displayed my folks moving, my mum's head thrown back in expression of joy. The description read, "Best day ever, so fortunate." I positioned my telephone down and moved to the washing facility. I observed it myself in the reflecting surface. I had lost 15 pounds in the previous month, and my eyes were lowered, circled with dark shadows. I appeared like I had aged 10 years. I appeared like someone who had observed their child perish, while their family celebrated. That evening, independently in my studio living space, I created myself a commitment. This was not over. They believed they could reject Ethan's existence, reject me, and proceed forward to their pleased commemorations without result. They believed their finances, and their social position, and their egocentric priorities could protect them from responsibility. They were incorrect. I did not know how yet, but I would create them, comprehend what they had accomplished. I would create them sense a portion of what I had sensed. Not vengeance precisely. Justice. And accounting. I removed a recording book and commenced recording everything. Each discussion, each denial, each dollar quantity. I recorded the sequence. When I had requested for assistance. When they had declined. When Claire's wedding ceremony organizing began. When Ethan perished. I recorded who had been at the burial, who had not. I observed each cost my mom had mentioned for the wedding ceremony. I was not certain what I would accomplish with this data, but I understood I required it. Proof, verification, a record of everything that had been removed from Ethan, from me. My telephone illuminated again. Another communication from my mom, home from Italy, fatigued, but so pleased. Claire and Jeffrey's initial movement was enchanting. I will transmit you the recording. I communicated back. Happy you had a favorable time. 3 points appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, we will arrive by following week to examine on you. I am certain you are sensing superior. By currently, sensing superior. as if sorrow operated on a timetable, as if 1 week after your child's passing, you were anticipated to be recovered and prepared to perceive regarding how enchanting someone alternative's celebration was. I did not react. The weeks after the wedding ceremony proceeded in a grey confusion. I returned to employment, relocating through my days like a phantom. My pupils were kind, softer with me than they had ever been. The administration had provided extended morning absence, but I had refused. I required the organization, required something to populate the hours that utilized to be absorbed by physician arrangements and prescription timetables and expectation. My folks contacted occasionally. Brief examinations that sensed more like responsibilities than genuine concern. How are you managing? They would request. And then populate the quiet with updates regarding Claire's vacation journey, regarding reconstruction projects they were organizing, regarding celebration plans. They never mentioned Ethan. It was as if he had never been present, as if recognizing his absence could damage their favorable disposition. Claire transmitted a single communication. I am apologetic regarding everything. I hope we can relocate beyond this. Relocate beyond this. Relocate beyond observing my boy perish. Relocate beyond being deserted by my family. Relocate beyond the reality that she had possessed a $250,000 wedding ceremony, while my child suffocated to passing because we could not manage procedure. I did not react to that either. In December, 2 months after Ethan's passing, my folks invited me to Christmas meal. I almost refused, but interest obtained the superior of me. I desired to perceive them, to comprehend how they existed with what they had accomplished. Their dwelling was ornamented like something from a publication display, a 12-foot tree, professionally ornamented, decorations and illuminations on each surface. The smell of expensive food service populated the atmosphere. Claire and Jeffrey were previously there when I reached, appearing tanned and relaxed from their vacation journey in Bali. Emily, my mom, embraced me, her scent overwhelming. I am so happy you arrived. We have overlooked you. I remained rigidly in her grasp. Thank you for inviting me. Meal was elaborate. Prime meat, marine creature tails, accompaniments I could not identify. Wine that my dad proudly declared cost $200 a container. Everyone discussed and expressed joy, distributing narratives from the wedding ceremony, from the vacation journey, from their comfortable existences. I positioned quietly, relocating nourishment around my dish. Emily, you are so quiet, Claire stated, her voice transporting that concerned manner that did not arrive at her eyes. Are you acceptable? I am acceptable. You know, Jeffrey and I were considering. Perhaps you ought to consider relocating somewhere alternative. A fresh commencement could assist you recover. Columbus possesses excessive sorrowful recollections currently. I observed at her at this female, who was my sibling, in identification only. Where would I proceed? I do not know. Somewhere more economical perhaps. I know you are having difficulty financially. Jeffries Corporation possesses a location in Kansas City. Expense of existing is much reduced there. We could assist you locate something. Assist me, relocate away, remove the uncomfortable reminder of their selections. I will consider it. I stated another deception. My dad cleared his throat. Emily, your mom and I have been reviewing your circumstance. We believe you require to consider financial failure. It is the responsible thing to accomplish given your obligation. Financial failure for your healthcare invoices. You will never finance them off on an instructor income. Superior to simply eliminate the record clean and commence over, as if Ethan was an error to be rectified, a financial mistake to be recorded off. We could assist you. Locate a favorable financial failure lawyer. My mom added, your dad knows several. I positioned down my eating utensil carefully. You know what would have assisted? $85,000, 15 months prior. The table proceeded silent. Claire observed at Jeffrey uncomfortably. My mum's expression froze in position. Emily, my dad stated, his voice transporting an alert. We have been across this, have we? Because I do not recall us ever genuinely reviewing it. You stated no, and that was it. We created a challenging determination based on our financial circumstance. Your financial circumstance? I motioned around the bedroom. This does not appear like financial challenge. The $230,000 wedding ceremony does not suggest financial challenge. Claire's face colored. That is not reasonable, is it not? I remained up, my chair moving against their expensive wooden floor. You devoted almost 3 times what could have preserved Ethan's existence on a single day. A celebration, flowers and dessert, and a garment you will wear once. Emily, that is sufficient, my dad stated, remaining as well. His face was crimson, angry. We created the selection we believed was correct. We are not going to apologize for supporting your siblings' happiness and Ethan's existence. What regarding supporting that? He was ill, my mom stated, her voice trembling. The physician stated there was no guarantee the procedure would operate. We were not going to discard finances on something that could not even assist. However, you would discard twice that much on celebration items and table decorations that proceeded in the refuse the following day. Depart, my dad stated. If you are going to be disrespectful, you can exit. I grasp my coat. Do not concern, I am proceeding. You are simply resentful because your existence did not conclude the manner you desired. Claire contacted after me. It is not our error you created difficult selections. I halted at the entrance and rotated back. They were all remaining currently, a unified group against me. My folks, my sibling, her spouse, all of them comfortable, secure, virtuous in their circumstances. Difficult selections, I said again, like trusting family, like accepting blood signified something, like believing you would select your grandson over a celebration. I moved out into the frigid December evening and obtained into my damaged vehicle. I positioned there for a moment, observing through the window as they established back down to their expensive meal, likely previously dismissing me as theatrical, unstable, ungrateful. That was the final time I communicated to any of them for 4 years. Existence persisted, because that is what it accomplishes. I declared financial failure, as my dad had suggested, eliminating most of my healthcare obligation, but destroying my credit for years to arrive. I relocated to a more economical living space, in a worse area. I obtained teaching employment in the evening periods and summers. To create and satisfy. I was present, but I did not exist. I also organized. I could not contact them yet. I was excessively powerless, excessively damaged, excessively absorbed with sorrow and survival. However, I was patient. I observed from a distance. Preceding their existences through social media accounts, they did not realize I could still perceive. I recorded everything, adding to my recording books. I delayed. Claire became pregnant a year after her wedding ceremony. My mom published constant updates regarding the pregnancy, the infant celebration, the infant bedroom arrangements. The infant, a daughter identified Sophia, reached healthy and flawless. The photographs displayed my folks radiating, grasping their initial grandchild, as if Ethan had never been present, as if Sophia was their initial and only. I perceived one remark on my mom's social media publication from a remote relative. Your initial grandchild, so enthusiastic. My mom's reaction, yes, we are beyond the celestial body. Not a rectification, not even a recognition that another grandchild had been present, had perished, had mattered. Ethan had been eliminated from the family story. I obtained a captured representation and added it to my assembly. 2 years after Ethan's passing, I proceeded back to educational facility, electronic classes at evening, operating toward an advanced qualification in education management. I was advanced to assistant administrator after 3 years. The income increase was modest, but it was advancement. I was constructing something slowly and intentionally. I also commenced preserving finances, each extra dollar, into a separate account, one I never contacted. I did not know what I was preserving for precisely, but I understood I would require resources eventually. Power demanded capital. During those years, my folks attempted to contact occasionally. Birthday documents with generic communications. Christmas presents transmitted through the postal service. Typically gift documents to stores I did not visit at. My dad contacted once to communicate me. They had established up a limited college fund for Sophia and wondered if I desired to participate. I disconnected on him. Claire transmitted a birth declaration when she possessed her second child. A male identified Jackson. The document featured a professional photograph of their flawless family, expensive garments, and genuine expressions. On the back, someone had recorded, "Hope you are accomplishing well." As an additional thought, I maintained each document, each declaration, each informal dismissal proof. 4 years after Ethan's passing, I was administrator of a successful junior high educational facility, earning sufficient to exist comfortably, though I still maintained my lifestyle modest. I had reconstructed myself from nothing, created an existence that possessed purpose and significance, even without the individual who had provided it both. I had also persisted, preceding my family's activities. Claire's spouse, Jeffrey, had been advanced to vice administrator at his corporation. They had purchased a larger dwelling in an exclusive area. My folks had obtained up recreational sport, joining an expensive nation club. They traveled frequently, publishing photographs from seashores and European cities. Existence was favorable for them, superior than favorable. Then, in early spring period, something modified. I obtained an electronic communication from an address I did not recognize. The subject line read, "Significant family matter." I almost eliminated it as unwanted communication, but something created me open it. "Emily, this is your relative Teresa. I am contacting because I believed you ought to know that your dad lost his employment 3 months prior. He has been attempting to maintain it quiet, but the circumstance is serious. His entire pension account was invested in his corporation material, which collapsed when the corporation proceeded bankrupt. Your folks have lost almost everything. They are confronting foreclosure on their dwelling. I know you and they are not connected, but I believed you would desire to know. Your dad is excessively proud to request for assistance, but they require it. Please contact me if you can. Affection, Teresa." I read the electronic communication 3 times. Then I proceeded to my computer and commenced investigating. It did not require extended to locate the information articles. The corporation my dad had operated for, a regional production company, had been captured in a massive deception scandal. The chief executive was confronting federal charges. The corporation had declared financial failure, and thousands of employees had lost their employments and their pension reserves. My dad's identification appeared in several articles as one of the senior administrators who had lost everything. I positioned back and stared at the display. After all these years, after constructing their comfortable existence on the grave of my boy's recollection, they had lost it entirely. Fortune, some could identify it. Fairness, others would express. I did not possess an identification for what I sensed. It was not contentment precisely. It was more like acknowledgement. The cosmos had transferred, and suddenly, I was not powerless anymore. My telephone sounded a week subsequently. My mum's identification. I stared at it, observing its sound, then proceed to voice recording. She contacted again the following day, and the day after that. I never responded. Then arrived a strike on my entrance one evening in May. I observed through the small opening and perceived my dad remaining there. He appeared older than I recalled, greyer, slimmer, reduced. I opened the entrance, but left the security attachment engaged. Yes, Emily, me. His voice fractured on my identification. Please, we must discuss. Regarding what? Can I arrive in? No, he recoiled. I know things have been challenging between us. I know we have created errors, but we are family. We require assistance. Assistance? I said again, the word sensing unusual in my mouth. I lost my employment. You likely perceived. We are in serious financial difficulty. The dwelling is in foreclosure. Your mum's healthcare protection ran out, and she possesses some health matters that require addressing. We are requesting our daughters for assistance. Claire and Jeffrey are accomplishing what they can, but they possess their personal family to support. We believed perhaps you could participate something, even a limited quantity, an advance perhaps, that you could repay when your circumstance improves. I stared at him through the gap in the entrance. When my circumstance improves. I know you are accomplishing superior, currently. I perceived electronically that you are an administrator. That must finance well. We would not request if we were not hopeless. Hopeless? I stated softly. That is interesting. I recall being hopeless once. His face colored. Emily, please. This is not the time to extract up the previous. Is it not? I expressed a smile. And it was not a kind expression. You are requesting me for finances. Because you are confronting financial destruction. That sounds familiar. This is different. How? We are your folks, and Ethan was your grandson. The quiet extended between us, like a separation. How much do you require? I finally requested. Expectation illuminated in his eyes. We are obligated approximately $90,000 on the dwelling. If we could arrive up with that quantity, we could maintain it, but anything would assist. Even $20,000 or $30,000 would provide us time to determine something out. $90,000. More than what could have preserved Ethan. I sensed something frigid and concluding establish in my torso. I will consider it, I stated, and shut the entrance in his face. Behind the shut entrance, I positioned against the partition and expressed a smile. Finally, after 4 years of delaying, of organizing, of constructing myself back up from nothing, the opportunity I had been delaying for had reached. Currently arrived the accounting. I did not contact my folks for 2 weeks. Permit them delay. Permit them wonder. Permit them sense the nervousness of uncertainty. Each day that proceeded, their circumstance developed more desperate. I understood this because I had commenced examining the public foreclosure records. Their dwelling, the dwelling I had matured in, was arranged for public sale in 45 days. During those 2 weeks, my mum contacted 17 times. My dad contacted 9. Claire transmitted 3 lengthy communications clarifying how our folks had constantly accomplished their superior, how they were favorable individuals who had created some errors, how family was supposed to pardon and assist each other. The contradiction was apparently lost on her. I reacted to none of them. Instead, I accomplished investigation. I observed into their financial circumstance as thoroughly as I could from the exterior. The dwelling was deserving approximately $320,000, and they were obligated $90,000. They possessed value, but not sufficient to commence over somewhere pleasant. They would have to relocate to a modest living space. perhaps in a less desirable region. They would have to discover to exist on Social Security, and whatever my dad could collect together from a new employment, if anyone would employ a 63-year-old disgraced administrator, it would be challenging for them, reducing a complete reversal of the comfortable existence they had constructed. However, they would survive. That was the difference between their circumstance and what Ethan had confronted. They were not going to perish. They were simply going to be uncomfortable. On the 15th day, I finally contacted my dad back. Emily, he sounded without respiration, hopeless. Thank the superior power. I was so concerned you would not contact. I have been considering regarding your request. And I could perceive the expectation in his voice. Pathetic and exposed. I desire to gather all of you, Mom and Claire. We require to possess a discussion. Naturally. When? Where? We can arrive to you, or we could gather somewhere impartial. Whatever you prefer. My living space Saturday, at 2 in the afternoon period. We will be there. Thank you, Emily. You do not know what this signifies to us. I disconnected without reacting. Saturday reached frigid and grey, appropriate conditions for what I had organised. I had devoted the morning period arranging, configuring chairs in my limited living bedroom, positioning out a container on the central table. I had published records, organised them in time sequence. Everything was prepared. They reached at precisely 2 in the afternoon period. All 3 of them. My dad appeared worse than he had at my entrance, his formal attire suspending loose on a structure that had lost weight. My mom appeared to have aged a decade, her hair more grey than I recalled, her face marked with concern. Claire appeared uncomfortable, attired excessively formally for my damaged living space, grasping her creator bag like a protection. Emily, my mom stated, relocating as if to grasp me. I advanced back, position down. They configured themselves on my used couch, positioning near together, like children contacted before an administrator, which I suppose they were. I remained remaining. You requested me for $90,000. We know it is a substantial amount, my dad commenced. However, we are arranged to provide security to authorize a formal advance agreement. We would finance you back with percentage. How? I requested, without emotion. You possess no income. Mom does not operate. What would you utilize to finance me back? I am investigating for employment. Something will arrive through. At 63, with your standing attached to a deception scandal. He recoiled. That was not my error. I possessed no concept what the chief executive was accomplishing. Ignorance is not innocence. You were a senior administrator. You ought to have understood. I removed the container from the central table. However, we are not here to review your occupation failures. We are here to review your request for finances. Will you assist us? My mom requested, her voice limited. That depends. I possess some inquiries initial. I opened the container and removed the initial record. Do you recall this discussion? May 16th, 4 years prior, I arrived to you and requested for $85,000 to finance for Ethan's procedure. My mum's face proceeded pale. Emily, we have been across this, have we? Because I do not believe we have. Not genuinely. Not honestly. I grasped up the record. A publication out of my original public funding page, with the procedure expense obviously recorded, $85,000. You communicated me you could not manage it, that you had to consider regarding your personal pension, that I required to be practical. We created the superior determination we could at the time. My dad stated rigidly. Did you? I removed another paper. This is a receipt from Claire's wedding ceremony organizer. Total expense of services, $230,000, financed incomplete by you 18 months after you communicated me. You could not manage $85,000 to preserve your grandson's existence. Claire remained up. This is not reasonable. You are distorting everything. Position down, I stated, my voice firm sufficient that she accepted. I am not concluded. I removed more records, positioning them on the central table one by one. Wedding ceremony location, 80,000 flowers, 15,000 food service, 40,000 garment, 12,000 photograph specialist, 8,000 entertainment, 10,000 ought I persist? What do you desire from us? My dad demanded an apology. Acceptable. We are apologetic. We created an error. Is that what you desire, to perceive an error? I said again softly. You believe selecting a celebration over your grandson's existence was an error. We did not know he was going to perish. My mom communicated quietly. Yes, you did. The physicians communicated you. I communicated you. You understood, and you did not care sufficient to assist. I removed another record, the one that injured most, to observe at a photograph of Ethan in his medical center sleeping area, obtained 2 weeks prior to he perished. This is what $85,000 would have preserved. This child, your grandson, recall him. My mom commenced expressing tears. Claire observed away. My dad stared at the photograph with an expression I could not interpret. Emily, please, my mom stated through her tears. We know we failed you. We know we ought to have accomplished more, but we cannot modify the previous. We can only request for your compassion currently. Compassion. I positioned the photograph back in the container carefully. That is interesting. I do not recall receiving much compassion when I requested you for assistance, when I disposed of everything I possessed, when I reached the limit on each credit document, when I relocated to a studio living space and consumed inexpensive nourishment so I could manage Ethan's prescriptions. We did not comprehend how difficult it was. My dad stated, did you not? I communicated you multiple times. I displayed you the healthcare invoices. I clarified that without procedure, he would perish. What portion of that was unclear? Quiet. However, you comprehended flawlessly well how significant Claire's wedding ceremony was. You comprehended that the table decorations required to be precisely correct, that the location had to be flawless, that your daughter merited the superior finances could purchase. I positioned down across from them, my voice calm and calculated. Here is what I have discovered in the previous 4 years. You did not assist Ethan because you did not desire to. It was not regarding the finances. You possessed the finances. You demonstrated that. It was regarding selection. You selected what mattered to you. That is not accurate. Claire objected. They were attempting to safeguard their pension, were they? Because they devoted almost 3 times their pension concerns on your wedding ceremony. Calculation does not deceive, Claire. Priorities do not deceive. My dad positioned forward. Emily, I comprehend you are angry. You possess each correct to be. However, are you genuinely going to discipline us currently, when we require you most? Are you going to be as harsh as you believe we were? Harsh, I stated, sensing the word. Is it harsh to create selections based on what matters to you? Is it harsh to determine that your resources ought to proceed toward your personal priorities rather than someone alternative's crisis? Because that is what you instructed me. That is the instruction you provided me when Ethan was perishing. So, you will not assist us. My mom stated without emotion. I did not state that. I removed the container and removed a payment document I had arranged. I am willing to provide you $90,000. Expectation developed on their faces, hopeless and immediate. However, I persisted. There are stipulations. Anything, my dad stated quickly. We will authorize whatever you desire. Payment arrangements, percentage, security. It is not regarding payment. I positioned the payment document on the table between us. The initial stipulation is that you recognize here, and currently, that you selected Claire's wedding ceremony over Ethan's existence, that you possess the finances, and declined to assist. I desire to perceive you state it. They stared at me. Claire observed at her folks. You do not have to accomplish this. She is attempting to reduce you. Yes, I accepted. I am simply like you reduced me when I requested for assistance. When I remained in your entrance with healthcare invoices, and you communicated me to be practical. When I interred my boy independently, because you possessed a practice meal. So, yes, I desire you to state it out loud, that you created a selection, and Ethan perished because of it. My mum was expressing tears firmer currently. My dad's face was crimson, but they required that payment document. They required it hopelessly. We selected the wedding ceremony, my dad finally stated, his voice scarcely audible. We possessed the finances, and we selected to devote it on Claire Telley's wedding ceremony instead of Ethan's procedure, and I encouraged, and he perished, because we did not assist. Mom, I observed at my mom, we ought to have assisted you. She communicated quietly. We ought to have preserved him. We were incorrect. I rotated to Claire. And you? What is your position in this? I did not know, she stated quickly. I did not know they had declined to assist Ethan, did you not? You never wondered where the finances for your elaborate wedding ceremony originated from. You never believed it was unusual that I requested you to relocate your pre-marriage celebration because Ethan was in the medical center and you declined. You never questioned having your wedding ceremony 3 days after your nephew's burial. She possessed no response. Here is the second stipulation, I persisted. You obtain these finances. You preserve your dwelling. And you never contact me again. No birthday documents. No Christmas presents. No telephone communications. You remove me from your existences, completely the manner you removed Ethan from your recollections. You proceed back to simulating, I do not be present. Emily, you cannot signify that. My mom stated, we are family. No, I rectified her. We distribute genetic material. Family is something alternative. Family displays up. Family sacrifices. Family does not permit children perish while they organize celebrations. I remained up and moved to my entrance, opening it. Those are my stipulations. Obtain the payment document or exit it. You possess 60 seconds to determine. They observed at each other. A quiet discussion occurring in observations and expressions. I observed them calculate. Observed them measure their satisfaction against their hopelessness. It obtained them 43 seconds. My dad removed up the payment document. We accept your stipulations, he stated, his voice empty. Favorable. There is a record on the table, adjacent to the payment document. It is a formal agreement that you will possess no additional contact with me. Authorize it. They authorized without interpreting it, which communicated me everything I required to know regarding how hopeless they genuinely were. My dad's authorization was trembling. My mom could scarcely grasp the writing instrument through her tears. Claire authorized with angry, severe movements, her face crimson, with suppressed anger. When they concluded, I assembled the record and provided them the payment document. You can proceed currently. Emily, my dad commenced, but I interrupted him off. You accepted to the stipulations. No contact signifies no contact. Exit. They departed silently. My mom expressing tears. My dad's shoulders lowered. Claire, moving rigidly adjacent to them. I shut the entrance behind them and secured it. Then I moved to my bedroom and opened my portable computer. I removed up my financial account and observed at the balance. The $90,000 I simply provided them had been relocated from my reserves this morning period. That account currently displayed 12,000 remaining. Years of careful preserving, of existing modestly, of positioning aside each extra dollar, reduced to almost nothing. However, I was not concluded. I opened my electronic communication and assembled a communication to my relative Teresa, the only family member who had displayed any genuine concern for me across the years. I attached a record, a letter I had recorded months prior, delaying for the correct time to transmit it. Relative Teresa, I desired you to know what genuinely occurred with Ethan. I have attached a complete sequence of events, including all the requests I created for assistance and the reactions I received. I have also included recording of the costs my folks incurred during that identical period, notably regarding Claire's wedding ceremony. I believe the family ought to know the accuracy. Please distribute this with anyone you believe ought to perceive it. Affection, Emily. I struck transmit. The record I had attached was thorough. Each discussion, each denial, each wedding ceremony cost, each medical center invoice, the photograph of Ethan in his medical center sleeping area, captured representations of my mom's social media publications, contacting Sophia, her initial grandchild, the sequence displaying how my folks participated, Claire's practice meal, instead of Ethan's burial reception, everything positioned out in time sequence. Undeniable detail. My relative Teresa possessed a large extended family connection. She was the category who transmitted electronic communications to numerous individuals who distributed everything on social media. By tomorrow, everyone would know my folks' acquaintances, their nation club, their religious facility, their area residence. The accuracy would distribute like uncontrolled fire. The payment document I had provided them would process. They would maintain their dwelling. However, they would lose something more valuable: their standing, their comfortable social position, the representation they had carefully constructed of being giving, affectionate folks and grandparents. Everyone would know what they had genuinely selected, what they had genuinely valued. A strike arrived at my entrance an hour subsequently. I observed through the small opening and perceived Claire remaining there independently, her face furious. I opened the entrance, but did not invite her in. You authorized an agreement not to contact me. That electronic communication you transmitted, you cannot accomplish that. You are destroying their existences. I am communicating the accuracy. There is a difference. You are vindictive and harsh. You are destroying them out of malice. No, I stated calmly. I am providing them precisely what they provided me. Results. Actions possess results, Claire. They created selections, and currently they obtain to exist with them, simply like I have had to exist with observing my boy perish. They provided you $90,000. They provided me back a portion of what they removed from Ethan. From me. And they only accomplished it because they possessed no other selection. If they were not hopeless, would they have assisted? We both know the response. You are never going to permit this proceed, are you? You are going to despise us forever. I do not despise you, I stated, and realized it was accurate. Despise demands caring. I do not care regarding any of you anymore. You ceased being my family the day you selected a celebration over my boy's existence. Currently, you are simply strangers who occurred to distribute my final identification. Mom is devastated. Dad appears damaged. Was that deserving it? Request Ethan if it was deserving it. Oh, delay. You cannot because he is deceased. Claire's face collapsed. You genuinely are as without emotion as they stated. Without emotion. My emotion damaged 4 years prior, and you were not there to perceive it. You were excessively occupied, organizing your flawless wedding ceremony and your flawless existence. So, do not discuss to me regarding without emotion, Claire. You do not obtain to utilize that word. She rotated and moved away, and I shut the entrance for the final time on my biological family. Across the following months, I perceived through indirect channels what occurred to them. My folks were indeed socially excluded. Acquaintances ceased contacting. The Nation Club membership was quietly not restored. Religious facility participation became uncomfortable sufficient that they ceased proceeding. They maintained their dwelling, but it became a confinement of categories, a location where they existed with their selections. My dad eventually located employment as a consultant, creating a portion of his former income. My mom developed nervousness matters and commenced therapy. Claire and Jeffrey relocated to another state, positioning distance between themselves and the scandal. Their Christmas documents, which had once been elaborate productions, ceased arriving altogether. I perceived my mum communicated individuals I was deceased, that it was simpler than clarifying why her daughter desired nothing to accomplish with her. I supposed in a manner I was deceased to them, the daughter who had been grateful for fragments, who had accepted being second superior, who had consumed her discomfort to maintain the tranquility. That individual did not be present anymore. As for me, I persisted, constructing my existence. I dated eventually, though carefully. I created genuine acquaintances, the category who displayed up when things were challenging. I traveled to locations Ethan would have valued, and distributed his remains in beautiful locations around the planet. I existed for both of us. The $90,000 I had provided my folks was deserving it, not because they merited assistance, but because it provided me conclusion. I had demonstrated I was the superior individual, the one who displayed compassion, even when none had been displayed to me. And then I had moved away, departing them to exist with the burden of their selections. Some could express I was harsh. That genuine pardoning signifies permitting proceed completely, assisting without stipulations. However, those individuals never observed their child perish independently, while their family commemorated elsewhere. They never had to select between electricity and prescription. They never had to enter their infant with borrowed finances, while understanding $250,000 had been devoted on dessert and flowers. I provided my folks what they had requested for on my conditions. I had existed up to my responsibility as their daughter one concluding time, and then I had shut that entrance forever, simply as they had shut the entrance on Ethan when he required them most. In the conclusion, vengeance was not regarding harshness. It was regarding fairness, regarding equilibrium, regarding guaranteeing that results met actions. They instructed me that family was conditional, that affection possessed restrictions, that some existences mattered more than others. I simply returned their instructions, wrapped in a payment document they could not decline, and an accuracy they could not withdraw. And I relocated forward into a future they would never be portion of, transporting Ethan's recollection with me. Finally at tranquility,